used actually was a trick. Ibrahim alayhi salam never ever doubted Allah Azza wa Jal. And when he was saying that this planet is so big and huge, this is my God, it was a trick. It was using the reasoning that people were using. Why do people worship stars? Because they shine at night. Okay, I will worship with you. But then the next morning he told them, where did the stars go? And then he said, okay, the sun is an even bigger star, shining star. Then this must be my God. But then it disappeared. So he told them, he said, I don't like gods that disappear, because we want God all times. So it was just a trick or a technique that he used to highlight the deficiency in their thinking. So he never doubted them. He never doubted Allah Azza wa Jal. And he used the same critical thinking many times. Just like, as you know, the story when he broke all the idols. Right? And then he hung the axe around the neck of the biggest of the idols. Right? Before he did that, he was talking to the idols around him. And he said, defend yourself. Did he really mean to talk to them? No, but it's so that it would be documented in the Quran, so that people would read this reasoning. Because nowadays people worship other gods that cannot hear, that cannot listen. People worship sports, people worship money, people worship position. But these things don't benefit people, right? So Ibrahim alayhi salam never meant to question or doubt Allah Azza wa Jalla. Right? And the famous story, you know, when Ibrahim said, Ya Allah, let me or allow me to look at you. Remember the story? And Allah Azza wa Jalla asked him, he said, Awalam tu'min? Aren't you a believer yet? He said, of course, I'm a very firm believer. وَلَكِنْ لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي. I just want to have this yaqeen. I need to see it with my own eyes, Ya Allah. But you had a question or comment? Okay. Right. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, although he was young, he never bowed down to any idol, to any sanam. He never bowed down. He never committed sujood to any sanam. Ibrahim alayhi salam, as the ayah says, since he was young as 16 years old, he was mature and he understood life. The question and the challenge to us at this age is how many of us are really mature? Tough question. For some people it's a painful question. Because there are people who reach their teenage age and they still think that we're still kids. I still have time, I still have room, to enjoy my life. I still have time to waste, to walk around in malls. I still have time, to shop around. I still have time to mature. I'm still a kid. I need to enjoy my youthhood. But Ibrahim alayhi salam had matured at a very young age. And that's something to copy. When we look at Ibrahim alayhi salam and we say we want to take him as an imam, that is something to copy. So if you're 13, if you're 14, if you're 15, you're not young. You are not young. There are people, I was reading the other day on Yahoo Financial, there are people who became millionaires in their teens. There's a lady that became a millionaire, she made her first million at age 19. And you know what she did? She invented or came up with the website, I think it's called myyearbook.com. Who goes there? Who goes to that website? It's a flirting website, by the way.
I heard of it. I've never said it once.
She made $1 million because she invented such an interesting website. So you can, at your teen age, you can make something big. You can create something big. You can contribute something big. Ibrahim alayhi salam did something huge at this age. So the question is, when were you planning, or when are you planning to mature and start taking life seriously? Like Ibrahim alayhi salam, who are we supposed to copy? I'll leave that for you to answer. But don't wait until you graduate, until you go to college, until you get married, until you hit 40, to mature. Because I know that if you choose to mature and be serious about life, you can do it now. You can do it now. Because I know people who work so hard to get their driver license, to get their first job when they're young. But when it comes to Islam, They just relaxed. We're still kids. So let's copy Ibrahim alayhi salam in this aspect. The very first story that I will touch on in the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam in the last 10 minutes is his story with his dad. The story of Ibrahim with his dad. He was at what age? Ibrahim was at age? Younger, 16, right? So at age 16, Ibrahim alayhi salam starts talking to his dad. His dad's name was? Azar. So it's documented in the Quran how Ibrahim alayhi salam talks to his dad. How does he talk to his dad? Anyone knows? Irrespectfully?
Respectfully.
Thank you. But he was a kafir. He was the worst among the kafirs. He actually was promoting kufr. Does he deserve respectful treatment?
He's his father after all.
He's his father. He's his father. But note that he started his da'wah, his activism, his preaching of Islam with his own dad. With his own dad. Many of us Muslims, and especially when you get to college, we start preaching Islam. And you know who we preach Islam to? We preach Islam to others. But we forget, I'm not going to talk about parents. We forget about our own selves. We have activists who get into college and they start having their da'wah table and fastathon and Islam Awareness Week, and you start preaching Islam to others, but then we don't practice Islam ourselves. So before we think about da'wah to others, to our parents, think about da'wah to ourselves. Are we practicing Islam? And then we need to take that da'wah to our parents, make sure that they see how beautiful Islam is, and then take it to others. Don't get in this trap of telling people about Islam and how beautiful Islam is, but you're not practicing yourself. This is a trap, in my opinion, that most Muslims get into. So teach yourself first before you attempt to teach others. Ibrahim alayhi salam, after he mastered his love of Allah Azza wa Jalla and his understanding of Islam, he took it first to his parents, because he knew that the top responsibility is within the house. Now he talks to his father in a very respectful way, and he says, Ya abati, my dear father, my dear father, my dear father. And if you look at the way he spoke to his father, he says, Ya abati, inni qad ja'ani min al-ilmi ma lam ya'tik. He did not say, Ya my father, my dear father, I know more than you do, because that would be disrespectful. And I know some of the, mashallah, good practicing Muslim and Muslimas, because we listen to some lectures, some tapes, and we read few booklets, and we hit few nice websites, and we feel we know so much. Now my mother could be a non-hijabi, my father smokes, my father deals with interest, my father doesn't do his salah on time, so we feel that our parents are so bad, are so out of touch, are not real Muslims. So some of the kids, the youth, they look down upon the parents. And because we're lucky, because we live in a community where we have masajid and musallas and lectures and conventions and so on, we have an opportunity that our parents never had. So many of the youth nowadays, they look down upon their parents, and they feel that they don't deserve being called Muslims. There are Muslim youth who think this way about their parents. So Ibrahim alayhi salam is teaching us how to speak to our parents. Inni qad ja'ani min al-ilm. Allah has favored me or granted me this extra knowledge that I would like to share with you, my father. Very polite and considerate when talking to your parents. And then the story goes on and how he tells him that, Ya abati, don't follow the shaitan, because that would be as if you're worshipping the shaitan. And at the end of the story, as you know, his father says, stay away from me, I'm not interested in any of what you're saying. I want to highlight the fact or the importance of this birr, of talking to our parents. When Ibrahim alayhi salam was faced with this rejection from his father, what did he do? after he spent all this time, and after he tried to convince him, what did the father say? He said, stay away from me, I'm not interested. What did Ibrahim say then?
Make dua.
He made dua. He did not say, I knew you were a hopeless case. You will get Jahannam forever. He gave up on him. But then he said, قَالَ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكَ سَأَسْتَغْفِرُ لَكَ رَبِّي. He said, peace be with you, my father. سَأَسْتَغْفِرُ لَكَ رَبِّي. I will ask Allah to forgive you. سَأَسْتَغْفِرُ لَكَ رَبِّي. It's very important how we talk to our parents. None of our parents are as bad as Azar. Don't you agree? None of our parents deserve the harsh treatment that some of the youth give to their parents. None of them. To the contrary, they believe the best of treatment because it's an obligation. Just like we are obligated to pray, we're obligated to put our hijab on, we're obligated to not cheat, we're obligated to treat our parents kindly, nicely. There's a very scary hadith. That's a beautiful hadith, but scary. The hadith says, the only sin that Allah Azza wa Jal immediately punishes a person for is the mistreatment of parents. So let's say I cheat. My punishment for cheating could be delayed until the Day of Judgment. Let's say I lie. My punishment could be delayed. But when it comes to mistreatment, the Prophet ﷺ says that your punishment is immediate. You will see the punishment in your health, in your wealth, in your state of mind. You would get depressed. You would see something, or something would happen to you immediately because of the disrespect of parents. He said the only sin that you would immediately see the result of is this disrespect and mistreatment of parents. Let alone what happens Yawm al-Qiyamah. This man came to the Prophet ﷺ. Listen carefully, because I know many of us, if not all, have tough times with our parents, especially if you are practicing Muslims. The man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Ya Rasulullah, if I do my salah on time, if I fast in Ramadan, if I pay my zakah, if I do my hajj, if I do all of this, would Allah accept from me? He said, what are you talking about? Not only that Allah would accept from you, but Allah will count you among the shuhada, among the prophets, among the salihin, among the nabiyyin. He will count you among those. But then the Prophet ﷺ said, unless you disrespect and mistreat your parents. So do you see how significant mistreating parents would be? I'm not talking about, screaming at your parents or physically, mistreating your parents. I'm talking about the attitude and the small words that we sometimes, give to our parents. Or sometimes the look that we give to our parents. That is significant. That is significant. So we learn from Ibrahim alayhi salam, our Imam, how to respect our parents, no matter how terrible you think your parents are. The next encounter that Ibrahim alayhi salam had was with his people. So when he looked at them and he saw that they actually worshipped idols, he said, why are you doing this? Why are you worshipping stones? So what was their answer? Because it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense for someone to worship a stone. What was their answer?
Their fathers did it?
Their forefathers, they said, we found our forefathers do it. And that's why we do it. We're just blindly following. And I would like to highlight for youth, I would like to highlight this blind following. Because we're trying to learn from Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? So do we sometimes blindly follow what happens around us?
Yes.
Yes? Can you give me an example?
In clothing.
Clothing, for example, specific example. Youth, I want the youth to tell me.
Football.
La, clothing.
Oh,
Before
clothing.
football. Yes? No? Anyone?
Like whatever the celebrities are wearing, we want to follow that.
Right? For example.